Good afternoon, everyone. ABC7's Jesse Kirsch. We're live just off of Lakeshore Drive on the southbound side at Belmont Avenue. You can see behind me a group that's gathered. This is Theo Hardiman and the Reverend Gregory Livingston have brought together a group of activists. We've been talking about this for several days now. They're planning to march onto Lakeshore Drive, so they just huddled and started rallying the crowd a few minutes ago, and we're going to show you a live shot from overhead now from Chopper 7 HD. You're going to be able to see the southbound side of Lakeshore Drive, which actually I'm now seeing cars move on. So we were told that it was going to be shut down. The Chicago Police Department tweeted out that the southbound side of Lakeshore Drive was shut down. And I'm going to turn my camera around now. You should be looking from overhead at the moment, but I'm going to turn the camera around and show you there are now cars moving along Lakeshore Drive. And I'm seeing multiple lanes. So I know we were told that one southbound lane was going to be open for traffic, but I'm now seeing multiple lanes with traffic on them. Again, there are still organizers on the ground here. And this is a group of protesters from various organizations. You'll see signs from different groups. Theo Hardiman and the Reverend Gregory Livingston are two of the organizers on this side. It's unclear exactly how this is going to unfold. We weren't sure how many protesters were going to be here at this anti-violence march. The numbers have fluctuated. We've gotten an estimate of roughly 500 people. That is certainly not the scene here right now. And our reporter Sarah Schulte, who is at one of the bus pickup locations, said she saw two buses leave, one with just a handful of people, and the other bus was completely empty. And so it's still very much unclear how things are going to unfold, but just to set the scene for you, it's a Thursday afternoon. Rush hour is about to be underway in downtown Chicago. Lollapalooza has kicked off earlier today, so there's a huge crowd downtown for that. There's a Cubs game tonight, and we are with this group that is planning to march onto Lakeshore Drive, hold a press conference there, call for an end to violence on the city's south and west sides, and bringing the protest to an area they say where complaints are heard. And so they're planning to then march from Lakeshore Drive on the southbound side, west on Belmont, and then turn north onto Clark Street and march to Wrigley Field. And their intention is to disrupt the afternoon rush for those who are going home from work and those making their way toward Wrigley Field for the Cubs game. Again, this is something we've been hearing about for several days in Chicago, but it's very unclear how this is all going to unfold. At one point, we were hearing some protesters were going to be marching on the north side of Lakeshore Drive, some on the south, trying to shut down the entire drive. And at this point, I can tell you that both sides are moving. I'm going to take you back to Chopper 7 HD if it's not currently being shown to you, and you'll see that there is traffic moving north and south on both sides, and where we are, Lakeshore Drive is said to have been shut down by the Chicago Police Department. So I'm going to try to get some information on that in a minute and see if there's any update there. But again, you're looking at the crowd beginning to form here along the southern side of Lakeshore Drive. A group of protesters calling for an end to violence on the city's south and west sides and intending to disrupt and cause quite a bit of problems for the evening commute this afternoon. CTA has rerouted several buses as a result of this, recommending you take the train. So we're getting an update now. Okay, just to update, I'm getting word from the newsroom right now. So Lakeshore Drive southbound has been reopened. They are planning to shut it down again about 4:15 p.m. We did hear that the press conference was slated to begin about 4:15, so that's just under 10 minutes from now. And so they've reopened Lakeshore Drive for the moment. But I'm going to turn my camera around and show you what the scene is on the on-ramp on the southbound side here at Belmont. You can see several police officers, Chicago police, on bike, all the way at the end of the ramp, and they've actually shut down the ramp now, so no one can enter Lakeshore Drive southbound at Belmont right now. And we're hearing the megaphone up again, so I'll bring you closer to the group gathering here and let you listen in to the activists who are beginning to rally the crowd. Again, just a few dozen at this point, not 500 as you're possibly expecting. And I'm going to stop talking and let you listen into this and apologize in advance if we hear any profanity.
If we don't get it, take it down. If we don't get it, take it down. If we don't get it, shut 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 it down. My check. Hey. 3. Mic check. Mic check. Let's What's 3 shoot? What's 3 shoot? We out here today. We out here in numbers. We out here in numbers. Regardless of what that's going on, we gonna be out here fighting against police brutality. Regardless of all the BS that's going on right now, we gonna be out here fighting against police brutality. We not out here to fight against each other and yelling at one another. We are out here today to say stop police crimes, stop the police brutality, stop the mayor and his doggish ass
over here, Tio
stop Eddie
Hardeman
Johnson and his
and
motherfucking
behind
tracks.
some of these
That's why we
flags
out
over
here
here.
today. We ain't out here to fight against
Gregory
one
Livingston,
another.
the two organizers of this
We
march.
out here.
So you
Hey,
see Tio
don't
Hardeman
shut
making
shit
his way
down.
toward the ramp now. We're going to see if he's getting ready to move on to Lakeshore Drive.
Everybody uniting on the side of putting an end to this. Everybody uniting on the side of putting an end to the murders by police. Everybody uniting on the side of not allowing this system to kill off a whole generation of our youth.
So we're showing you a shot from overhead now, Lakeshore Drive.
We're not doing that.
This is Chopper 7 HD. I'm being told by our producers back in the newsroom, people are making their way onto the ramp. And I'm trying to get that perspective from the ground here. You can see this group's getting more and more energized on the ground here.
All right, hold up, everybody. Listen up.
Tio Hardeman's now to the
Listen up,
microphone.
everybody. We got about 10 more minutes. We're going on Lakeshore Drive. Remember, this is a Tio Hardeman event. If you got split agendas and all that bullshit, I ain't going with it. Not me. I hate to cuss like this, but I have to get. Let me finish. I hate to cuss like this, but I have to be honest with everybody. There's no margin for error. I invited everybody out here that's out here today. I want to make sure we take care of our business and raise the bar for our people. We are intellectuals. We are intellectuals. We are grassroots organizers, and we plan to have a peaceful demonstration. I respect the Revolutionary Club all the way. I just want to make that clear. But I have low tolerance on bullshit, okay? There's no division out here. We should all be one people. Can I get a witness on that? We should all be one people. I'm not going for it, not today. Too many people are being killed in Chicago. Hear me clearly on this. Too many people are being killed in Chicago. There's a mass exodus of black folks moving out of Chicago. Over 180,000 black folks moved out of Chicago over the last 15 years. We need a lot of economic development opportunities in our communities, and there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of reasons why we're marching today, but I don't want nobody with no split agendas talking the wrong stuff, but I want you to be yourself, all right? Everybody will get a chance to talk during the press conference when we hit Lakeshore Drive. If you all have a banner, listen, matter of fact, let's do this now. Let me just do this right now. Let me step over here. That's what I'm about to do. This is what I plan to do. I need y'all to pause this for me for a minute. Pause to wait for a minute for me. All right? Let's pause for a minute. We're not going on Lakeshore Drive yet, but this is what I need you all to do. Listen to me. If you have a banner, I need you to bring your banner up here now. If you have a banner. All right? Bring your banner up here, because when we hit Lakeshore Drive, I'm going to give it around another 10 minutes. We plan to hit Lakeshore Drive. Everybody needs to just follow my directive. That's all I'm asking you to do. If you're out here on a split agenda, I need you to get going about your business. I'd love to say it another way, but I ain't playing that today.
It's order today.
No, I don't need no. Just now, we got that. We good right now. Okay? We good. Everybody will get a chance to get their message heard. And remember, that's what it's all about. I don't want to overtalk it because we have a press conference coming up in about 5 minutes, all right? We're going to shut down Lakeshore Drive, and once we shut Lakeshore Drive down right here, then we're going to march to Wrigley Field, down Belmont to Wrigley Field, all right? And we plan to educate people along the way, and that's it. Redistribute the pain. We need to redistribute the pain. The Revolutionary Club will get their message out all the way here today. All the organizations. We got Black Lives Matter Lake County here. We have Ian Russell, Brother Uline, Sister Amina. Protect the Frontline organizations are present. Today we got State Rep Sean Ford. A lot of my good friends from the North Side have joined us here today. We got people from my man Phil Gregory out here. We got people from a homeless shelter out here. Joby James, Paul McKinley, everybody. The biggest problem we have right now, and let me just say this here. The reason we have so many goddamn killers in our community, because we cannot unify. For nothing. We can't unify, all right? If we don't unify, we're not going to be able to stop the killing. You understand?
That's just the way it goes.
Exactly.
We got CPAC out here, and we need CPAC to be a part of this as well.
Exactly.
And I'm going to let you know, if you don't follow my directives, you're not with me.
Exactly.
If you don't follow my directives, you are not with me out here, okay? That's just the way it goes, all right?
Stand together.
So about 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes.
We need them up here.
All right. So when I'm going to lead the charge for everybody, and just follow my lead. That's all I'm asking.
Excuse me, sir.
So far,
Where you want the clergy?
the clergy right
That's
up there
Theo
with me.
Hardiman
So far in Chicago,
trying to bring these groups together that on the ground here, but you can hear another
Shut up,
megaphone.
Theo. Man, I got the police jumping on me. I can't even get here. Then I got a fool over there thinking we out here acting a fool. We not out here to act no fool.
Right. That's my man Clyde, Black Lives Matter, Lake County. We got him.
Hey, peace everybody. Peace everybody. Peace everybody.
I'm going to bring you over to another group of protesters out here. See if we can make our way. And you can see police now holding the line here.
So don't feed into that bullshit. You got hackers in the crowd. So don't feed into that bullshit.
No, it's he's just looking for a Facebook.
You guys chill.
One white man,
We
one
got hackers
Trump
in
supporter,
we got hackers
person.
in here.
Help these people.
We good, brother.
That's what he's doing. He's going with one person.
We got hackers in here.
Yep.
He wants to be on Facebook.
So real well, don't let nobody see y'all up on no bullshit.
The white dude
Okay?
yelling at
We ain't
people.
know that. Alright? We ain't know that.
Right on.
If they want to talk about something, let them get on TV and talk about something. Don't let nobody throw y'all out. We out here tomorrow. We out here tomorrow.
What we need to do?
Yes.
Cameras on him. Cameras on him.
Shut it down. 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 Shut it down.
So you see the crowd is now spilling onto the on-ramp here.
Mike check. Listen up. Mike check. Listen up. Mike check. Listen up. Mike check. Mike check. Listen up. I'm doing mic check for you. Mic check.
All right, everybody. This was going on. We're going on in about 2 minutes. I need everybody to file in line with me. Thank you, brother. Okay? I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And I need everybody to follow my lead here when we hit Lakeshore Drive in about 2 minutes. We're hitting Lakeshore Drive in 2 minutes. I need you to follow my lead. The members of the clergy, follow me. Everybody else, we will shut down Lakeshore Drive.
So we've got multiple megaphones out here, and you can see multiple groups trying to organize the crowd. So this crowd is now almost completely covering the on-ramp here on Southbound. And we're showing you the aerial now. We're showing you the aerial from Chopper 7 HD of southbound Lakeshore Drive lanes being closed. I'm being told by my producer multiple trucks blocking the roadway. And the police line has been pushed back from the west to the east side of the ramp on southbound Lakeshore Drive.
That's my man Amari Brown right here. He lost his son down the drive-by shooting. 60 seconds, moment of silence first, then the pastor will say a prayer. I need everybody to follow my lead. Dr. Hatch, thank you as well. So the brother will say a prayer. Pastor Jones? Betty Jones, yeah. Betty Jones, without a doubt. We're going to bring her up all the way. So look here, do this for me. So we got some order here. 60-second moment of silence. I'm only asking 60 seconds right now. Anybody get ready? We about to hit Lakeshore Drive after this prayer. We got a prayer.
Which way is they going?
So we're moving on to the
Which way they going?
the ramp here. And you can see there's a moment of silence right now, and got several dozen activists here, people watching from the other side of the street as well, preparing to move on to southbound Lakeshore Drive. You can hear the police officers' bikes putting off their sirens. And I'm just going to hop over to the other side of the pathway here. And just show you the scene higher up on the side of the ramp here. You see several Chicago police officers here and the crowd down below. I'd say at least 100 people here, but again, they were telling us they were trying to get 500 people here. They had multiple school buses on the way, and I have not seen school buses driving by. We've seen a few on Lakeshore Drive, but they were fairly empty. And you can see from overhead, again, police officers making their way onto Lakeshore Drive in preparation for this group to march onto the road. And just to give you context again, if you're just joining us, it's 4:20 in the afternoon, rush hour is underway. And on top of that, there's Lollapalooza downtown and a Cubs game slated for first pitch just after 7 p.m. So this is going to be an afternoon rush nightmare scenario if this continues for quite a time. And I'm now being told that North and South Lakeshore Drive has been shut down, or Addison, I should say. Addison Street has significant closures as well. And reminder, we have plenty of updates on abc7chicago.com. We're now on the drive. Oh, and someone is tripped over a little bit. We are now on Lakeshore Drive. And trying to get a clean look at Tio Hardeman here.
All right. So understand why we shutting down Lakeshore Drive. We are shutting down Lakeshore Drive because there are too many killings. There are too many killers in Chicago. Too many police-involved killers in Chicago. It's time to change the narrative in Chicago and reduce killings by 80% and reduce the number of police-involved killings as well. That's why we are out here. We out here as a voice for Betty Jones. Let's say Betty Jones. We out here as a voice for Augustus Harith. We got Brother Granton that was shot in the back about 2 weeks ago. We out here out of respect for all of our deceased brothers and sisters. We got Amari Brown's father out here. He lost his son, all right? We got a lot of people that will speak during the press conference part of this event. I don't want to do all the talking, but I want everybody to be in order. So far we're okay. We got Dr. Pastor Hatch out here, Reverend Ackley, Brother Livingston, Clyde McLemore. Everybody, look here. All this frantic bullshit, we don't need this. We don't need this frantic bullshit, okay? We are grown, let me say this, okay? We are grown men and women out here. Everybody need to respect each other. Don't put your hands on nobody out here. All this frantic stuff, you're going to get a chance to speak. Just hold tight. Okay? Just hold tight. Look here, let me finish. So with that being said, let me bring up Dr. Hatch. Where's Dr. Hatch at? Come on up, Brother Dr. Hatch. This is the press conference part of the event. Then we're going to march to Wembley. Come on, Doc.
Around 424, that was the time frame. They were doing more people there was a production of cameras and a lot of people.
We are here proclaiming that we are one Chicago and that everybody has a right to the tree of life. When we look around us, we see what a well-funded community looks like. We know what a community looks like that has resources and adequate school funding. But one thing we notice, that this side of town does not look like the south side of town, and does not look like the west side of town.
And so we're here calling for one Chicago. We're here standing in the name of the blood of Betty Jones and Quintonia LaGuerre, having done those eulogies in West Garfield Park, the neighborhood that has the lowest life expectancy than any other neighborhood in Chicago. 69 years, a third world life expectancy. And so now is the time. 56 years after Dr. King marched in Marquette Park, now is the time. 50 years after Dr. King shed his blood, now is the time. To call for one Chicago. We charge City Hall, we charge the powers that be with being unequal in the way they address funding all over this city and invest in this city. We just left West Garfield Park, where 5 schools were closed. 5 schools were closed out of the 50 in the poorest neighborhood in Chicago. That kind of disinvestment, that ain't right. That ain't right. When we look at TIF funding, tax incremental financing, money's being moved out of poor communities and moved to the wealthier communities to build arenas and basketball stadiums. That ain't right. That ain't right. When we look at how black communities were destabilized, when Chicago public housing was torn down, rung around the loop, and families were dispersed in neighborhoods where folks were striving and trying to have decent neighborhoods, that destabilization was intentional. It was public policy, and we're here to say that that ain't right. That ain't right! When we know that City Hall is sitting on $500 million that should be for affordable housing for poor people while people are in the streets, that ain't right. That ain't right! So we come to say, shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! In the name of Betty Jones, shut it down! 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 God bless you. Right now, and then we have a phone speaker. Remember, 2 minutes. 2 minutes is going to be playing the bars. All right, so if you want.
So there's a discussion going on right now about if they should expecting 500 people
My name is Pete Kell. I'm the president of
I don't know
on this event. Mr. Hardiman came to me. We got it together with people in different areas of Chicago to come out, black, white.
So we've stepped back from the huddle, this press conference going on over there, and I'll show you what that looks like. You can see dozens surrounding Reverend Livingston, as well as T.O. Hardiman. But off to the side here now, we're seeing these these other activists drawing in chalk, and this is something that I was expecting to see. Jacqueline von Edelberg brought several pallets of chalk and was handing it out to anybody. Afternoon.
Yeah.
From overhead now, you see the crowd on Lakeshore Drive, dozens of people out here, like a few hundred. Plenty of press out here as well, giving attention to this.
Retired Marine Corps Colonel, 35 years, 4 wars. Led men, I saved men out of a burning Humvee. I got a cross and a... You're welcome. I like watching your show, The Jam. Every morning I watch it. Help the home.
Joining you back here on the ground, you can hear a horn being blown right now behind me. Dozens of people, again now completely covering the southern side of Lakeshore Drive, just east of the Belmont on-ramp heading south. There's a press conference going on right now. Theo Hardiman, Reverend Gregory Livingston, and other activists up ahead. And you can see there's also been chalk placed down on the ground. So there's a young girl here right now writing in chalk, and you can see this whole section of roadway right now has different phrasing written on the ground here in chalk. And I'm going to actually see if we can talk to this girl and see what she's working on right now. So what are you writing right now? Can you say that again?
I'm writing Jesus and all of my family.
And what are you hoping that these words will do?
That my family don't get killed, and make sure that Jesus protects all in the world so people can all be safe from all these people that are killing people in the world.
What's your name?
Kamaya.
What is it? Kamaya. It's very pretty. How do you spell that?
CAMYA.
And what's your last name? How do you spell that?
Help the homeless veterans. Find shelter.
Great. How old are you? 7. Who are you here with right now?
Find shelter.
Is that your grandma?
Veterans, find shelter. Nobody cares about the veterans. I do. Help the homeless veterans. Find shelter.
Speak with this young girl's grandma right now.
35 years in the Marine Corps.
Can I ask you, what's your name?
Odessa.
Odessa. So I'm live right now for ABC7 on our digital platform. So what prompted you to bring your granddaughter out here today?
Because we see so much violence in our neighborhood, and they are our future, and I just want her to know to speak up if it's something when I'm gone, even if after I'm gone, and she still wants to be heard on something, to change something in her life for her friends and her. We've been doing it, yes.
What do you hope she learns from these kinds of events? Because, you know, everything you talk about, there's also, of course, there's plenty of clashing between the different groups out here.
Yes, I want her to learn that there's always somebody at the top that you can speak to or stand up and build a crowd and stick together to make a change in this world and in this life. Now, the gun violence is becoming, so I don't know if the guns the problem or the people the problem, so we got to get together and find out what's the problem so they can grow up and have a diploma, have a family, go to. Nobody gonna be here.
Where are you coming from today for this protest?
Inglewood. I live in Inglewood.
Does she live there too?
Yeah, yes. Well, she lived in Calumet City, but she was a product of Inglewood. We're trying to branch out a little bit.
Someone who you raised children in Inglewood.
Yes, all my children.
So for people who are tuning in right now, who haven't been following along with all the violence, who just don't get it, what do you want them to know about life over there?
I know that life is hard. On yesterday, a girl next door to me at a gas station was running for her life, and my heart hurts because I feel her. I feel her mother. I feel her mother pain. That's like my daughter. That's like my niece. That's like my sister. That's like, you know, when we hear it every day, it's like every day they keep saying gun violence went down, but it ain't went down.
What's your last name, Odessa?
Riley.
How do you spell that?
Riley.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So there you have it. You're hearing from Odessa Riley and her granddaughter, who came out here to be a part of the anti-violence march on Lakeshore Drive. And again, if you're just joining us right now, it's 4:35 in the afternoon in downtown Chicago. One of the major thoroughfares for people making their way home, making their way downtown for Lollapalooza, heading to Wrigleyville for the Cubs game, has been completely shut down, north and southbound. And I'm just going to walk over to the edge of the road and show you. And this is something you do not see. This is Lakeshore Drive completely shut down for this portion of road, this stretch of road, north and southbound. You can see both sides of the street completely empty, no cars out on the roadway right now, and the barricade down the middle lined by, or the divider, lined with Chicago police officers on bike. There are numerous officers out here, probably several dozen in the surrounding area right along the Belmont entrance of Lakeshore Drive southbound. And just a reminder, Lollapalooza has started downtown earlier today. The evening commute is in the midst. We're in the midst of the evening commute right now, and in about 2.5 hours, we're going to have first pitch at Wrigley Field. And this group intends on shutting down Lakeshore Drive for quite a while. Some estimates were an hour earlier, so we've been out here for about 15-20 minutes at this point. And after this press conference and this rally out here, they intend on marching along Belmont, west toward Clark Street, then north along Clark Street until they hit Wrigley Field right before, and as fans are making their way toward the friendly confines for a Cubs home game. And the whole point of this is to bring attention and cause a disruption. The organizers say they want to bring the protest, they want to bring the march, they want to bring the message to the communities that they say are the ones that have their voices heard when they complain about things to the city. And of course, not to belittle, not to use the word complaining in a belittling sense when talking about gun violence and young people's lives being taken, but their point is that their message has fallen on deaf ears to those at City Hall, and they have also called for Mayor Rahm Emanuel to resign, and so there were Rahm resign chants here earlier as well. We haven't had as there was to the Dan Ryan Expressway with Michael Flager, Chopper 7 HD, and just show you a completely carless Lakeshore Drive, and it's actually starting to forward now. So we're heading northbound on the southbound side of Lakeshore Drive. And I'm just going to turn my camera around right now because I'm going to walk forward, but I want to keep talking to you and show you the scene behind me. These are the protesters making their way. So there are plenty of people also lining the street just watching this unfold. And there was no sense of knowing how many people would actually make it out for this march. The organizers were hoping for 500 people. I would certainly say there are a few hundred people out here. We'll try to get more of an estimate later. And we did get word that they're waiting for a few more school buses to bring people as well. So unclear what will transpire. Sending to the newsroom earlier. This is from one location she was at, and one of those buses was completely empty. So it's very unclear how many people may wind up joining the protesters here. But now I'm going to backtrack south again.
Oh, not on the front. Yeah, no.
Everybody listen up. Stop the killing! Stop the killing! Stop police killing! Stop the killing! Time for a change! Increase the peace! Stop the killing! Save the baby! Time for a change! We must organize! Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down!
So the protests have stopped again. We've moved probably about 100 yards north along the southbound side of Lakeshore Drive, yet both sides of the highway remain closed. And dozens of people also lining the street just to see what's going on and look in on this scene unfolding here along Lakeshore Drive. Again, this is a major roadway in downtown Chicago. It's the middle of the afternoon rush. Make their way home from work. People will be heading downtown for Lollapalooza, and in both directions making their way toward Wrigley Field for the Cubs game slated to have its first pitch at 7 p.m. And there was also discussion earlier of people suggesting that someone might try to get into Wrigley Field as a part of this protest. And the Cubs have issued statements warning. We have all that information on Chicago.com. But again, if you join us in this group of protesters have on the southbound side, north from Belmont. This in the roadway at one point. There are several people watching the scene unfold from the protesters right now to document. This is something you do in East Lakeview, as the group of protesters are calling for an end to violence on the city's south and west sides. Bringing the march, bringing the anti-violence calls for an end to violence to the north side.
This event was organized by professional African Americans and everybody, all right?
Jobs, they don't have secure housing, they don't have a future because they need money, and that money the operational budget.
We're now hearing that eastbound traffic is closed and westbound traffic has resumed. That's what I'm hearing from the newsroom. That's Addison Street, the other portion of the main intersection around Wrigley Field. So again, westbound traffic remains open on Addison Street, but eastern traffic between Clark and Racine is closed at this point, as is this portion of Lakeshore Drive. And as we look forward, there are a few cars seen driving, unclear if they're police vehicles or not, on the northbound side of Lakeshore Drive. And on Inner Lakeshore Drive, traffic does not seem to be anything too over the top. So certainly with the word of this protest coming out several days ago, I'm sure many people have seen our reporting on this and have tried to steer away from this road today. But again, it's 4:40 on a Thursday afternoon, and there are several people that would be commuting home right now. The protest is moving faster now. I had to turn the camera around because it is getting much quicker out here right now. The group pushing onward. I'm trying to see where this exit would be. So again, we're heading north on the southbound side of Lakeshore Drive. Dozens of protesters shutting down the road, calling for an end to violence on the city's south and west sides. And as I look ahead, the police have a line set up. Turn the camera out. So we're here with Tio Hardiman.
Give me the microphone.
Tio, where's the march going next?
We're going to go to Addison down at Wrigley Field.
You're going to cut down Addison. All right, so Tio Hardiman tells me that they're making moves west toward Addison Street now, and you can see the police have set up a line of their bike personnel right alongside Aldine Street, and are not going to let them move any farther north along Lakeshore Drive. So we're going to listen in on Tio Hardiman now.
We got to march to Wrigley Field, everybody, all right? So just hold up for a minute. Look here, I got this, okay? I got it. Everybody hold up. We're marching to Wrigley Field, so now we got to get our... Everybody just hold up for 1 minute. Just hold right here. Get back. Hold in place. Everybody hold up. Give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. That's all I'm asking for. 1 minute. Spread out.
So again, just to show you the scene, as I zoom in, that's an empty Lakeshore Drive. Starting to see cars on the northbound side, but south side of Lakeshore Drive still completely shut down over here. No cars can be seen on the roadway, and now the march is moving off of Lakeshore Drive. If you can take a look from overhead from Chopper 7 HD, you'll see the scene unfolding here. People are weaving onto the off-ramp now. And we're right near Addison Street, I believe. It might be Belmont up ahead. We didn't make it very far. This march did not go very far, but it did serve its purpose of shutting down Lakeshore Drive for the better part of an hour in the middle of the afternoon rush. And just a reminder that Lollapalooza is underway downtown in Grant Park, and the Cubs have a game tonight at home at 7:05. So there are people making their way home right now. There are going to be people making their way Okay, so this group is now moving back to Belmont, where the march began. A few hundred people out here. So we're showing you from overhead now, Chopper 7 HD, a look at the scene unfolding here. Lakeshore Drive still shut down for the time being as people are marching. And I'm noticing a man holding a folded American flag up there in the way that it's folded when given to the family of a fallen service member. I don't know what kind of message he's trying to send up there. I'm going to walk over there and see if I can get an interview with him, and we'll catch back up with the march in just a moment. And just to show you, as I climb the hill here, just to show you the scene as several biking police officers are catching up with the crowd and making their way west to get ahead of the crowd. I'm going to see if I can talk with. Tell me what message. I'm asking, are you supporting these protesters or are you standing against them? Okay, this gentleman doesn't want to speak with us, so we're going to move on. I asked him what kind of message he's trying to send, and he said, figure it out. Can't really do that. So we're going to move on here. We're heading west on Belmont now. The group is regathering up ahead. And if you're just joining us here, we've been marching with this group for about 45 minutes to an hour. They started gathering just before 4 p.m. and it went from a few people to several dozen. And you can hear a loud group here, several megaphones, and several different organizations trying to come together and conduct this march. They shut down Lakeshore Drive north and southbound, although they only marched on the southbound side near Belmont. And now we've marched back south to Belmont, and they're preparing to march west toward Wrigley Field. Again, we're in the middle of the afternoon rush. Lollapalooza downtown, a Cubs game tonight. And this group of marchers is trying to cause disruption in Lakeview tonight and send the message that they are sick and tired of violence on the south and west sides.
You're doing the thing. Don't let it drag. Full straight. Full straight. Full straight. Full straight.
And that is a big part of this message tonight. They're trying to cause disruption in an area that they feel ignores their calls for help in the fight against violence on the south and west sides. In an area that, even when these protests have played out in recent weeks, months, have not been impacted. We've seen protests in the communities where people have been shot by Chicago police officers. We've seen the Dan Ryan shut down, but now they're bringing the protest to the north side, bringing it to Lakeview ahead of the Cubs game tonight. 7:05 is the first pitch at Wrigley Field, and you can expect between people making their way home and people heading to the bars in Wrigleyville ahead of the game that there's going to be quite a scene there. And this march is meant to disrupt all of that. Several CTA routes have been moved this afternoon. Again, Lakeshore Drive was shut down, and I still see officers up there, I believe, walking on the roadway, and you can still see people stopped on their bikes overhead, looking in on the scene down below as the march has stalled briefly at Belmont and Lakeshore Drive on the inner drive. This roadway now is completely blocked off where we're standing, and I'm looking to see if heading farther west the road is open, and it doesn't. So again, Belmont Avenue heading west also appears to have been shut down for the time being.
Continuously get that message out. We want to make sure.
Sheridan Road between Belmont and Southport, I'm being told, is also shut down at this point. Again, Sheridan Road between Belmont and Sheffield, I believe. My producer just told me. I'll wait for her to confirm that for me. Belmont and Sheffield, that's Sheridan Road. Again, another closure here as this group now moves west. Chants of Wrigley Field being heard. And as we approach 5 p.m. here, much of the north side is going to be dealing with these traffic issues, I would think, because Lakeshore Drive has been shut down for nearly an hour. Multiple farther west roads are also shut down. And I'm hearing of another closure on Sheridan Road right now.
And now it's time to move on to Wrigley Field. The trail together. Thank God again for Reverend Livingston. Thank God for
So we're going to take you back to an image from overhead of Chopper 7 HD because I'm hearing that Lakeshore Drive is reopening, at least a portion of it. So we're going to show you that scene as the cars make their way back onto the road. But with all the attention these marches have gotten, it's unclear how many cars will try to make their way out there right now.
And so we're going to Wrigley Field. We're going to organize before we go. We're going to have a word of prayer so that we're in an orderly way. And we'll be moving quickly behind the leadership of Teal and Reverend Livingston. Let's bow our heads in prayer. God, we thank you for this opportunity to gather together. We thank you for these fearless leaders. We thank you for this fearless people. God, we do not fear what any man or woman can do to us because you are light in our salvation. And now we decree that zip code should not determine the life options of any children, but all of us are your children. And so we declare that everyone has a right to the tree of life. Now we go down in your name the day we march, like they marched across the Red Sea. We marched like the children of Israel marched around the walls of Jericho. And now we march to Wrigley Field to declare that we will not take this injustice anymore. We march in the name of Betty Jones. We march in the name of Quintonia Logria. We march in the name of Aretha Augustus and all of those who have been victims of violence. And now we march in Jesus' name. And every heart said amen. And bless God. Whose street? Whose street? Whose street? The same kind of bat that was held by Quintonia Logria. Where's the wrong banner?
Just a moment ago, one of the organizers here saying the zip code of a child should not determine their future, paraphrasing there. But the point being that children on the south and west side should have the same opportunity as others in this city. And when you look at violence in those communities, something they think often goes overlooked. And you see some of the recent protesting that has gone on with yet another shooting. They are now bringing the march, bringing the protest, bringing the message to the north side, to Wrigleyville tonight. They're on Belmont Avenue, just west of the inner Lakeshore Drive, after having shut down both sides of Lakeshore Drive for the better part of an hour, and now they are marching west, making their way toward Wrigley Field. The plan earlier, and I assume it is holding at this point, was to march north on Clark Street. And as I heard from my producer a short time ago, yet another road closure on Sheridan Road in the area of the ballpark. I understand that this continues to create traffic problems for the city this evening. The CTA rerouted several bus routes ahead of this afternoon in preparation for what they saw as a lot of congestion. Lakeshore Drive was going to be shut down. That was the plan earlier today, and the police did wind up shutting down both directions of that major roadway. And just a reminder, it's 5 p.m. We're looking at a lot of people making their way home. We're looking at a lot of people downtown for Lollapalooza. A lot of people for a ball game tonight. So on top of all of the roadways that are being interfered with, in regards to the CTA in there this evening, because I'm sure plenty of people to take the drive car. As we move forward here a little bit, I can show you police containing the march here on Belmont Avenue. So we are now moving west to protesters. This is an anti-violence march that began.
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
And I am seeing cars up ahead on Belmont Avenue. So this is going to be interesting to see how this unfolds, because I am seeing multiple vehicles, non-police vehicles, up ahead on Belmont Avenue here, and we are moving that way. So I don't know what police are going to do, if they're going to, and this might just be local traffic, and I do see cars up ahead going through an intersection. You can see members of the Chicago Police Department leadership out here marching as well. And the group has held up again on the Inner Lakeshore Drive. So I'm hearing from the newsroom that all lines of the Lakeshore Drive are now open, and hopefully we can show you that scene from overhead from Chopper 7 HD. But as we make our way west with these marchers, they're continuing to cause problems for the afternoon commute as they make their way west on Belmont toward Clark Street, where we expect them to march north toward Wrigley Field ahead of the Cubs home game tonight. And a reminder that Lollapalooza is going on in Grant Park right now, and it's the middle of an afternoon rush hour. So there are going to be quite a few traffic complications this evening, and that is what this group intended to do, and I can imagine they are accomplishing it. my camera around. I can walk straight ahead and make sure I'm not bumping into dozens of people out here, police officers, hundreds of protesters, I would say. We weren't sure how many people we'd have it for, but there are certainly at least west, and then they're going to move forward. Make their way toward Wrigley, and just do Lakeshore Drive for the better direction. Conference on Lakeshore Drive, calling an end on the south and west side. Now have moved off of Lakeshore Drive and are making their way to this. Lakeshore Drive was expected to be shut for most of the day, and it was in fact shut down in both directions. And now this group of people who probably would have avoiding driving their car today may have been taking the train home, and Belmont is a major CT, so it's going to be interesting to see what closer there. And this road, I noticed, has been shut down way west, farther west on Belmont. Things are being shut down here at one point, and now this road continues to be shut down as we make our way west. Police officers surrounding the group on all three sides, and there are also several people who have come out just to observe from the side of the road and see how things unfold. And this has not been a completely organized event. There's a banner calling for the resignation or the no reported by the Chicago, and they said that the shutdown time on Lakeshore Drive was roughly 35 minutes. So the better part of an hour, just over half an hour of shutdown time, and no arrests, no issues so far. That's what we're hearing from the Chicago Police Department. Our thanks to the team back in the newsroom working on that. But again, on the ground here, it has been very calm for the most part. There have been a few points where different groups seem to have been things sides, and they're saying that this message is not listened to, and so they're bringing the march to the north side, where they hope it will be heard and answered by those who they see as a community that is regularly heard by city officials. And you can see behind me the group continuing to march. I've just turned the camera around so I can make sure I'm walking forward and not bumping into anybody or anything. It's been a very tight group out here throughout the afternoon. We've been on the scene for about an hour and a half, and the group certainly has grown since we first got out here. There were a few extra buses that we were told by Tio Hardeman he was still expecting when we were on Lakeshore Drive. Unclear if they ever made their way over here and joined the group as it's now making its way west. And just to show you the scene again, on the ground here, there are people who aren't necessarily a part of the march but are holding up signs along the side of the road, people stopping to take video on their phones as they make their way home or just walking through the neighborhood. And we continue to march west on Belmont. And once again, if you're just joining us, the Chicago Police Department telling Eyewitness News that the Lakeshore Drive was shut down for about 35 minutes, and they're reporting no issues or arrests at this time. So this group has continued to make its way west And what we're being told by CPD is that that is without any significant issues.
Hold up! Hold up! Let's go!
So I'm going to step down the road as the group has slowed down again. We're getting closer to the and trains still moving by, and up ahead, numerous Chicago police officers standing ready to maintain the crowd here, which again we're hearing has not led to any arrests or issues at this time. And as we get to the intersection of Belmont and Broadway, see police officers lining both sides of Broadway at this intersection. Yeah, that's right. People out here be on, and I wonder if stopping by the crowd has anything to do with trying to time things differently. Turning off the road on Broadway to avoid this intersection right now. Again, we've been with this group for about an hour and a half at this point. Lakeshore Drive was shut down for 35 minutes in total. Police department. They've reported any arrests or issues at this point. This has been fairly organized and calm. It's hard to tell from where I'm standing on the ground here, maybe get a better sense from overhead just how many people are out here. I would say a few hundred people have joined this protest and are continuing to march west, calling for an end to violence on the city's south and west sides, bringing the message to the north side ahead of a Cubs game at Wrigley Field, where you can expect there will be a significant amount of traffic, not just from people making their way home from work or heading to the ballpark, but also in light of the fact that we've got Lollapalooza downtown this weekend, and plenty of people are going to be using the CTA to get there as well, or driving along Lakeshore Drive. I'm going to show you the scene from overhead again. As we here on Lakeshore Drive, sorry, not on Lakeshore Drive, on Belmont Avenue. After moving off of Lakeshore Drive, and you'll see the scene from overhead, the roadway cleared of cars as the protest continues to make its way west, eventually going to reach Clark Street and move north to Wrigley Field. And people who are in the neighborhood, who work here, who live here, are walking down the street, are stopping to observe this unfold before them, taking pictures, just standing there, taking it all in. And that's the whole point of this march for the organizers of it. Their message was that this anti-violence, this call for an end to violence, is something they're talking about all the time, but people on the north side are not necessarily paying attention to it and not seeing it unfold in their communities, and they wanted to bring that message here, cause a disruption this evening, and hopefully spur some kind of action on the part of those who live in this part of Chicago, bringing the city together instead of looking at it in a segregated sense, which many people feel Chicago is. I'm being told that Sheridan Road is reopened at this point. So some of the roadways, and as we've been marching with the group here, I have seen that the roadway is being shut down incrementally as we make our way ahead. For example, about, I'd say, 3 or 4 blocks up from where we are right now, farther west, I'm still seeing cars driving, and it seems that the police have found a way to contain the scene here on the ground. You can see it's moving with a good pace, but not too quickly, and fairly organized on the ground here. Numerous Chicago police officers out here, in addition to the dozens of protesters. Whistle. Now our chant's starting back up, so we'll just listen in. Hey there, everyone. If you're joining us, sorry we just had a few issues on the ground with my signal a minute or two ago. So we're marching with the protesters along Belmont Avenue heading west. I'm showing you the scene here. Some stand by, some folks have stopped along the street to watch this unfold, and I'm going to walk over to the Reverend Gregory Livingston in a minute, sorry, who helped organize this with Tio Hardiman. I see him, so we're gonna head over there in a minute, but I just want to show you the scene on the ground here. As the road is narrow, there are cars that are stopped in their tracks. A giant Jewel Osco truck among them stopped at Halsted and Belmont. And there's a line of cars heading down the street here, you can see. And we're moving forward, and I do see cars on the road. The police trying to slow things down up ahead. And while we're standing over here,
Rico, hold up, Super Puerto Rico.
You can see the protest has been stopping and starting several times as they regather. And if you're just joining us, if you haven't been following along, this is a group of anti-violence marchers who shut down Lakeshore Drive for 35 minutes earlier this afternoon and are continuing to march west along Belmont Avenue toward Clark Street, where they will move north toward Wrigley Field at the height of rush hour and just before a Cubs home game at the Friendly Confines tonight. They're calling for an end to violence on the city's south and west sides and saying that there isn't enough attention given to these causes in these communities and on the north side, and they hope that bringing the protest here, bringing attention to this community, will spur action on
infiltrating the march.
intended on turning north and stuck right now. And they're trying to are several cars who are you can hear the drum beating. You can hear getting right now. Coming this way, and I'm going to see about how things are unfolding right now. The march is at Belmont Street. Ahead, southbound, police are waving them through southbound on Clark Street. It looks like they're having them turn off onto Belmont. North and south traffic on Clark between Belmont and Roscoe has been shut down, and I'm seeing up ahead clear Clark Street. And again, the plan here is for these protesters to march along Clark Street to Wrigley Field, and we don't really know what to expect at that point. The Cubs demands that they should take alternate modes of transportation to the game. The Chicago Police Department has made it clear that people try the Cubs is the complaint with the police department that people will be arrested. So we don't know what to expect once this group gets to Wrigley Field. Organizers, activists have told BC Citizen they are willing to be arrested. So we do not know what will unfold once this group makes its way to Wrigley Field, which I would expect to happen sometime in the next half hour to 40 minutes. But if you look at, again, from overhead from our Shoppers HD shot, you're seeing a group of protesters, activists, calling for an end to violence. On the north side of Chicago, a place where they say they brought this day is not paying attention to the violence and the protests that have ensued and are bringing this march here to disrupt this community in hopes that this community will be inspired and call on their leaders for change. They're looking for the city to come together in a Chicago is divided. To the
shame of Chicago would make the mayor and the city councilman tremble and do something different. Because we are tired of being sick and tired. We stand today on the blood of Elijah Sims and Betty Jones and Antonio McGreer and so many others. We ask these blessings in your darling son's perfect and majestic name. Amen. Amen.
Stopped for a moment to play on Clark Street. And they're slowing down our march. Older gentleman asking if they can slow it down. And I can see an ambulance on the rear end of this march. Unclear if it's there just to help with the flow or if they're assisting someone right now. You can see the lights on a police vehicle. And you can hear them now chanting 16 shots in a cover-up, referencing Quan McDonald's shooting.
down real quick.
For the protest to slow down. Only 5:30. The Cubs game begins at 7:05. Figure people will be in the bars right about now, and moving out. And so they approach Clark Street as big of an impact as they're. Can't hear me? We can hear yellers whistling of this march. Just along the lane and now end violence on the south and west sides of Chicago. The march manifesting itself here tonight on the city's north side, heading toward Wrigley Field ahead of the Cubs home game. And the crowd continues to inch forward. Now going just blocks away from the L tracks crossing Sheffield. We're going to try to speak with Reverend Gregory Livingston, one of the organizers, in just a moment. Can you hear me? So if you're just joining us here, we're on Clark Street, just north of Aldine, and the crowd has halted just to the side of that street for the time being. This has been a group inching farther north since moving off of Belmont Avenue a short time ago. Sorry, I've got my hand in the way there for a moment. So we're continuing to march with this group north on Clark Street. They're calling for an end to violence on the city's south and west sides. That major roadway during that time in both directions. They've also caused quite a bit of traffic headaches for commuters farther west along Belmont Avenue on Clark Street, and they're continuing to march into Lakeview right now. CTA rerouted buses as a result of this. I'm sure many more people were on the trains than would have been. People would have been avoiding this side of town to drive tonight, and that was the whole point of this march, to create a disruption, to tell people about the violence and the frustrations of the South and West Side communities, and call attention to the plight that they see only being a problem in their side of town, and trying to bring attention to it here on the North Side. And as I show you, we've got numerous Chicago police officers marching here as well, and we're now making our way right into the heart of Wrigleyville, where the bars will start to fill up ahead of a Cubs home game in the middle of August. And this is during the afternoon rush hour, and you can see people who are walking through the neighborhood on their afternoon run have stopped to observe this unfolding. And again, to show you the scene, dozens of protesters, possibly hundreds, for the past hour and a half or so, making their way toward Wrigley Field ahead of the Cubs home game. I mentioned it a short time ago. We don't know what to expect once this group makes its way to the friendly confines. Some were talking about being willing to be arrested. The police have made it clear that if the Cubs issue any complaints against people trying to make their way into the ballpark, that police officers will be arresting folks. So we'll have to see how things unfold. But to this point, as has been reported to us by the Chicago Police Department, there have been no arrests or issues at this time. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that and see if we hear anything else. Just again, to show you the scene here, this is a protest that has been unfolding for nearly 2 hours now. A group of anti-violence marchers making their way north on Clark Street. if there's any update from folks what they intend on doing once they reach the ballpark.
16 shots and a cover up. Keep a hole in front of us.
Yeah. What happens when you reach Wrigley Field?
We're organizing. We're going to continue to organize and spread the message. Getting to Wrigley Field is half the battle. We have to bring the fight into these communities. We have to eliminate bubbles so many people are in. If you're an ally, you have to be an ally in bird form. You can't stay on the couch. You can't watch this on TV. Our people are dying. And the health of one community directly impacts the health of other communities. So you have to be able to risk and sacrifice if you want change. So we're bringing that message here. It can no longer be an excuse that you don't know what's going on in our communities. We're building bridges, we're knocking down doors, and we're demanding that everybody stands with us. Because what impacts me should impact you. Because I'm a human being. Laquan McDonald's a human being, was a human being, until the police tragically and savagely took his life. So that's why we're coming here. People aren't enjoying a damn game while we're dying. Wake up.
What is the intention once you reach the ballpark? Because I know there was some discussion.
We're going to continue together. We're going to continue to spread the messages for these people right here. We have black people that are under attack. We have immigrant populations that are under attack. We have the LGBTQ community that are under attack. We have to build bridges.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Anthony Clark, C-L-A-R-K. And the last thing.
Where do you live?
I live in Oak Park, Illinois. I'm a teacher at Oak Park River Boys High School.
So you came from Oak Park to be here today?
Correct. I run a nonprofit, Suburban Unity Alliance. I ran for Congress this past year in the 7th Congressional District. I have a relationship with T.O. and so many other organizers here. Again, Oak Park does not necessarily impact me, but the health of Austin, the health of Inglewood, the health of all these other communities should impact us. So that's why I built the bridge, that's why I'm here, and that's why we'll continue to march.
Thank you. We just heard from one of the marchers here. We're going to try to get to Theo Hardiman, see if there's any update, what he intends on doing. See if we can get any update from the organizer of this march, what they plan on doing when they reach Wrigley Field.
Main Street! Main Street!
Any update on what's going to happen? We heard the governor might be here, but we don't know.
Hey, make a hole, dude.
Again, we're marching here with protesters walking down Clark Street. For those of you familiar with the area, we're about to approach Sluggers. We're just a block away from Clark and Addison, and behind the marquee of Wrigley Field has been the scene of many memorable moments, and this is surely going to be one of them. Hundreds of people marching up Clark Street from Belmont Avenue, from Lakeshore Drive, where they shut down a major roadway during rush hour, during Lollapalooza, ahead of a Cubs game, to bring attention to violence on the south and west sides. They're here to bring the plight of those communities, the attention that they hope they will earn from the community here on the north side. And again, this has been unfolding for going on 2 hours now. We haven't heard any information about arrests or issues from the Chicago Police Department at this time. I spoke with a gentleman before the protest started. He was making a sign, and he told me about 2.5 weeks ago he was carjacked and beaten. And at that point, all of this became very personal for him. And he is now out here and intends on being at future marches to show his support. And you can see barricades set up here along Clark Street and inside Wrigley Field, right next to the marquee. You can see people are standing on. They're not paying attention inside Wrigley Field right now. They're watching. You're just joining us here. Take a look at this scene unfolding at Wrigley Field. These are people at the Cubs game who, instead of paying attention to what's going on inside the ballpark, are watching from the edges of the marquee this protest unfold. And this is the entire point. This is what this group wanted. They wanted this attention, and they certainly have it tonight here at Wrigley Field.
Rahm Emanuel's got to go, hey, hey, ho, ho. Rahm Emanuel's got to go, hey, hey, ho, ho. Rahm Emanuel's got to go, hey, hey, ho, ho. Rahm Emanuel's got to go, hey, hey, ho, ho.
hey, hey, ho, ho. Rahm Emanuel's got to go. Yeah, this is the scene that's been unfolding all afternoon. We've been watching the protesters make their way along Lakeshore Drive, where they shut down the road for 35 minutes. They then headed onto Belmont Avenue, made their way west along that road, and then continued onto Clark Street, heading north to this final destination, Clark and Addison, the marquee of Wrigley Field. And you can see dozens of people inside the ballpark have stopped paying attention to the pre-game proceedings in there and are instead, as I turn the camera around, watching what's unfolding outside the ballpark. And this is what this group of protesters wanted. They wanted the attention in this community of the plight of the South and West Sides, the violence that goes on there all the time. And they are certainly getting attention here this evening. Barricades are set up. You can see numerous police officers on bike here setting up a perimeter. And CPD reports no arrests or issues at this point to ABC7. Now I'm going to make my way toward the middle here. I think we're about to hear from Tio Hardiman and Reverend Livingston, the organizers of this march, so we'll listen in.
Everybody listen up. I want you all to do something for me right here. I want you all to do this. We are a peaceful march, everybody. We have accomplished something today. But what I want us to do, if you can kneel down, if you can sit down, we're going to pray down. Come on, everybody. It is time for us to pray for our city, to pray for a mayor that would approve a march but won't even deal with us in our community. We want to pray now, everybody. All right? Y'all, be cool. Everybody, every head bowed, every heart lifted. Eternal God, we thank you on today that you have brought us to Lakeview, Lakeshore Drive, and Wrigleyville. God, we are your people. And God, you are no respecter of persons. Red, yellow, brown, black or white, straight, gay, whatever you are. God, you are with us. And God, we have only just begun. God, we are not finished yet because you are not finished with us. And we can pray for everybody in this march that God, your power would resonate here on the corner of Clark and Addison. We got multi-millionaires inside a stadium, but we got God's children outside here on the streets. And God, we shall overcome. 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 We shall overcome.
Here we go. Here we go. I need everybody to listen, all right? So at this time, what we plan to do, we got the media out here. If you have any reporters that want to ask some questions, you can ask your questions now. I'm just looking for everybody to respect this particular demonstration. Now, we have no competition with Father Faker or nobody. But I want to make sure that we as we some I was saying, man.
We take look from overhead right now. You're going to Clark Addison. Point for people to be gathering for the Cubs series of 26. Now we see Violence March, the conclusion of the march, which has been going for nearly 2 years. Started both directions. Belmont Avenue made its way west, Clark, and then north along this juncture just before the Cubs home game on a Thursday afternoon during rush hour. And they have dozens of people inside, leaning over the fences, looking down upon this, taking photos, listening in, and paying attention to this message. Call for an end to violence on the south and west sides of the city. That's exactly what this community, in hopes that this community would take action place where these organizers feel complaints. And certainly the people for the most part are, from what I can tell, are being quiet, listening in on this scene. But whether or not that will translate into action on their part, I cannot say. You can see this crowd. It's about a block long. It is now condensed. See officers on horseback now in the vicinity. One of those officers smoking a cigar, so it doesn't appear to be any kind of this group is not dissolving at this point, so it's unclear what happens next.
Mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check,
mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check, north in the southbound lanes, then off of Lakeshore onto Belmont Avenue, and north of Clark Street to this point at Clark and Addison. And dozens inside Wrigley Field are standing there watching this unfold right now. I've seen a few thumbs up in support to this group.
As we take the national anthem,
they're appalled. Appalled. These are the everybody take a knee. The word appalled.
I've got a gentleman here who doesn't think they're standing their support. So you're saying you don't think they're supporting you up there? I mean, I've seen some people giving thumbs up.
I see people giving the finger, too.
Well, I'm sure that is possible. I haven't seen that. So you're seeing people give the finger, too. Seen a mix. You seeing any support up there?
Oh, yeah, there is some support. There is some.
What happens next? Because people give a thumbs up all the time.
Right. Well, I think if there's going to be effective change, there's clearly going to have to be action. People are going to have to vote. They're going to have to organize like this. I think block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, and speak truth to power. Speak truth to power.
Which group did you come here with today?
I actually am a longtime friend of T.O. Harding and Pastor Livingston, originally from the West Side. And I support this. I think that the voiceless must speak up. This really is about poor people. You know, you rarely hear people talk about poor people. They talk about the middle class. And so the middle class is not the issue. The issue is the poor. And so this march, what it does for me, it highlights the tale of two cities in Chicago. And there are two cities. There's the north side, and then there's the south and west side. There are the haves and the have-nots.
Would you consider this a success?
Yeah, I think it would. Well, you tell me. What do you think? I mean, based on the evidence, I think that it is.
Absolutely. For you, how is this different from when someone sees about a shooting, sees about a school closing on the newscast?
Well, what this does is that it shows that people do care. You know, sometimes people get the impression that communities don't care, but people really do care, but they feel powerless. And so this is an opportunity for the collective community to express their power and to speak their voice and their truth to power. I think that is nothing.
What's your name?
My name is Garrett
Harris. Garrett Harris. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Y'all notice the police got all their guns off their holsters? We ain't gonna pick no cotton in the field. South and West of Wrigley Field. We ain't gonna pick no cotton in the field. South and West of Wrigley Field. They gonna bug the motherfuckers. It ain't gonna be no scratch ass today. It ain't gonna be no motherfucking Martin Luther King. It ain't gonna be no Martin Luther King shit. It's gonna be some 1800s. That he is great with our $10. Our hands left black people. The language in a food desert, in the desert. He has left black people to drown in the river of gunfire.
And so right now, we want to stand up and protest Black Lives
Everybody! Nataki, hold on. We want to thank everybody for the tremendous work that you've done. We are ending here today, but we are establishing for the next day, everybody. Thank you all. We are heading down Addison. We will be back all over the city. We will have demands, and we will make this happen. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, and God bless you.
What side are you on, my brother? What side are you on? What side are you on, my sister? What side are you on? What side are you on, my brother? What side are you on? What side are you on, my brother? What side are you on?
Listen up. We got CTA buses to the back of you and 10 buses to the right. Listen up. We got China buses, our buses to the right, CTA to the back. We're going to do this.
I'm going to try to talk to Tio Harding, the man who organized all of this in a minute. Reverend Gregory Livingston just calling for protesters to go home now. They've reached Clark and Addison. They're just outside of Wrigley. 2 hours, protesters marched on the Lakeshore Drive, just down that road at the start of the evening rush hour on a day that would see downtown being very busy thanks to Lollapalooza, as well as a Cubs game that is slated to have its first pitch in just over an hour here at Wrigley Field. Troop then marched west on Belmont, made its way north on Clark Street, disrupting traffic throughout and doing what they hoped they would, which is bringing attention to their cause, calling for anti-violence, calling for an end to violence on the city's southwest sides, bringing that cause, that message to the north side communities. We're going to try to talk to Tio Harding now. Economic disparity.
This is just the beginning. We've only just begun. I'm glad to see everybody show up and support us today. I don't play games with the people. I'm straightforward. The reality is this. Our community is green.
We got CTA buses ready to take everybody back to their mind.
Madison and Pulaski,
So Addison,
79th and
and we
Yates,
got other
75th
buses to
and
go
South
right
Shore,
on Clark
79th and
Street.
Damon.
Crenshaw and Central Park.
That's right. We want to make sure that everybody comes out
People are hurting
tomorrow.
out here. $90 million to Arnie Duncan. Arnie Duncan was the chief architect of Renaissance 2010 when they closed schools down and transferred the kids other schools and it led to a blood game. So you get a $90 million to a guy that created the problem, and now you got him to try to solve the problem? I don't think so. Then we got another guy, Kenny Cross. He's receiving millions of dollars to reduce violence in Chicago. He's another guy coming out of Providence, Rhode Island, getting millions of dollars. What about grassroots African-American-led organizations? When I ran for governor, I plan to make sure African-American people receive that shared contract. We need mental health institutions open back up. We need more homeless shelters. All of that.
Every man and every woman is now obligated to come out tomorrow and make sure that this crowd goes down.
See, I'm not a buck dancer. I'm the other brother. I'm just going straight up. I'm not the guy that's going to talk with everybody. I got my own personality. I'm my own man. So next step is to meet with the powers that be. Sending out the gates. Work together to reduce killings in Chicago. You have to understand, I want to tell everybody this. Chicago carries over 500 murders every year for the last 30 years. This is the thing. Billions of dollars have been spent on reducing killings. But why haven't we got it right with all those billions of dollars? If you put most of the police on death duty for 90 days, and most of these fake programs out here on death duty for 90 days, you might see a reduction in killings. Because everybody's showing up at the top anyway. Black death is a hustle. Everybody's hustling on black death.
Tio.
Killing each other. Everybody's getting rich on black death. And we must unify the people to stop this.
Tio.
But this is the thing, I just had to call a spade a spade. Yes, we called for Mayor Rahm Emanuel's resignation, but the thing is, the black community voted him back in, even though they know he wasn't right. So the verdict is still out on that. See, a lot of people talk good game. I'm gonna tell you the truth. People play games. Yes, we calling for the resignation of Rahm Emanuel, and I would say this here: when he covered up the tape of the Ron McDonald's execution, he was dead wrong for that. But then he had the nerve to run for mayor again. That is crazy. What he's telling everybody is fuck everybody. Excuse my language, because anytime you cover up an execution, imagine how many things you covered up we don't know anything about.
Amen, that's right.
I'm being honest with you. The man covered up an execution of a young black man so he can win his re-election. That shows you he doesn't have a real election. Commercial saying, sometimes I get it wrong, sometimes I get it right. You bullshitting the people, man. Step down, get out the way, let somebody else be the mayor of Chicago, and I'm not trying to run for mayor.
Tio, what do you make of the crowds that are hanging off of the sides of the ballpark?
Out here in opposition to nobody. I'm a Cubs fan. No, long live Harry Carey.
Does them watching this unfold right now, does that make this a success?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, they're just paying attention, but I think they hear the message, which is really good. We came out here in peace, we taking care of the business. But you have to understand, I had to navigate all these different personalities out here today, and it's not easy, okay?
So where do you go from this?
Well, we plan to sit down and meet with the powers that be out here and see what we can do to bring resources to our community. Okay, thank you.
Channel 7, that's the people.
That's the people's government, that's right. That's right.
So you can see Clark and Addison still shut down. As far east as Sheffield. A block or two north of here as well. Foot traffic open. And there's still several people standing inside the ballpark watching this unfold below.
Do it.
phone. I'll get them to their bus. Then I'll be right back. Yeah, they bus. I'll get them to their buses. Okay, all right.
One Chicago! One Chicago! One Chicago! One Chicago! One Chicago! One city! One Chicago! One city! One Chicago! One city! One Chicago! One city! One Chicago! City! One Chicago! Stand up for the poor and dying. Stand up for education. We need to talk to Sheila about that stand up for police brutality. Do not let the police and continue to take up over 50% of our budget. The other side want to know why we up here, because we are tired of maternal auto police taking up our budget, closing our community down, bringing disparity to our community, bringing disparity until our mental unstable, bringing disparity until our children. They bring chaos to our communities, Northside people. So that's why we're up here. We're up here saying that we do not want chaos. We do not want our schools closed. We do not want our mental health facilities closed. We need our resources open. It's just like it's open up here. The trauma center, the hotel, the bars, the upper income, the LGBT. Because believe it or not, the police disrespect all the LGBT community that gets locked up.
Yes, they do.
Does not let you all know that. I have a lot of brothers and sisters that have suffered from police brutality because the police lack training in LGBTQ community. Where's Tom Stewart? He's not here. He does not stand up for police brutality. That has been erased on the LGBTQ community. One Chicago, one city. 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 One city. One city. One city. One city. That's what I want y'all to know. We are one city. One Chicago. One Chicago. One Chicago. One Chicago. Thank you. For the one they got us. Chicago police. We need $95 million invested into the South Side and the
stop. So homeless. We can stop homeless because we are one city.
One Chicago.
One city.
One Chicago. One Chicago. One Chicago.
They tell us that we can't stop homeless just we can. What we can do is stop that $95 million going into a new homeless classic. What we can do is stop the $95 million from keeping our people out. Our people are being housed out. And so that's why we said we have the community benefit agreement. Because we want community benefit agreement when you bring Obama's library. If you have so much money to invest into Obama, and I don't know why Obama is not investing in Chicago, because Chicago has invested into us. We're not here hoping we're giving Obama $1 million for his library in the state. Because all of us here have made Oakville people where they are today. We made Obama and we made Oakville. And for him to donate money to a library where our children are homeless, where our people are dying, where our homeless are being homeless, this is no, because we are one Chicago, and we do not stand under the rules and jurisdiction of one united. We want to end homeless now.
Yeah!
One Chicago!
One city!
One Chicago!
One city!
One Chicago!
One city! One city!
Just joining us here, I'm Jesse Kirsch reporting from Clark and Addison. We've been following this group of protesters for more than 2 hours now. They began their march at Lakeshore Drive, shut down that road for about 35 minutes, marched north on the southbound side of the road, then made their way onto Belmont Avenue where they marched west of Clark Street, up Clark Street to this juncture where they have gathered and have been here for about 15-20 minutes at this point. And the crowd has thinned out a little bit, but there were at one point a few hundred people out here. We've had our chopper overhead route showing the scene from the air. The evening commute very much shaken up by the events unfolding here, with a Cubs game slated to have its first pitch in under an hour at this point. The CTA rerouted several buses throughout the afternoon to downtown as well. There's a lot of activity in Chicago today, and that was what this group wanted, to disrupt all of that, bring attention to the cause of anti-violence, bringing an end to violence on the south and west sides of the city, bringing it to a community on the north side that they say is often immune from that and not paying attention to it, not exposed to it. And so they brought a protest here, hoping that this community would react and complain on their behalf, and not to use the word complain in a belittling sense, but get the attention of their city leaders, because they feel that their voices are not being heard and are hoping that their neighbors up the road will be able to use their voices to call attention to this cause. I'm going to turn the camera around now and just show you the scene inside Wrigley Field. Dozens of people lining the fence inside the ballpark. We're less than an hour from first pitch at this point, but people are not inside having a beer, eating peanuts. They're paying attention to this scene unfolding outside the ballpark in the heart of Wrigleyville tonight.
You need one of these so bad.
And we need our
Let's listen to black women!
Everybody's not going to listen. Everybody's not going to want to make a revolution. But we don't need everybody right now. We need the thousands who can see that somebody can bring a picture, bring a picture, and they're safe behind that thing. We need the thousands who are ready to get rid of the universal remote system and bring it to the United States. I want to hear people say, I need a revolution. Having to fight the for reoppression. I have lived in Chicago 46 years of my life. I have lived on the north side and the south side. I went to Swift Elementary and watched Swift Elementary on Thorndale and Westbrook. I believe all over the world. High school, but also, I south side and I went to I don't see the injustice. I see all over there. I know how to fight and the Constitution. All over this country, this is the way I never want it all. And I say, this is not every man. And I know that the people, and I know that it's up to them. Against the money, against the best of and we pray out and we go with us. They're not violent. They're lying. But they're violent. They are organized. They are crime. They have informants. That's in the gay-based database. And these informants are committing terrorism in our community.
Cage with
Amen. That's what we do, stand up for the people.
The scene on the backside here. The crowd has congested a little bit more together at Clark and Addison, and you can see traffic beginning to reopen here, foot traffic at least, on Clark Street as people are making their way toward Wrigley Field, crossing the street over the barricades, but still police, first responder vehicles on the road here and no other cars making their way down the street. The crowd is significantly thinned out at this point. This is more than 2 hours after people began coming together at the Belmont entrance of the southbound Lakeshore Drive. They marched onto Lakeshore Drive and then made their way about a block or two north on the south side of Lakeshore Drive. And after that, they got off, marched west on Belmont to Clark Street, up Clark Street north to this point at Clark and Addison, and had the attention of dozens of Cubs fans inside the ballpark and have shut down traffic throughout the neighborhood all afternoon during the evening rush ahead of a Cubs game and with Lollapalooza in full swing in Grant Park, calling for an end to violence on the city's south and west sides, bringing that cause to the north side communities tonight here in Lakeview. Dozens of police officers have been out here. The city was well aware of this for days. Organizers called for marchers to join them days ago, but have been very unclear about how many people they expected to be with them and who they were cooperating with and who was actually leading the group, because there were several organizers involved, and it manifested itself in a few hundred people marching to Wrigley Field tonight and successfully shutting down roadways along the way.
Ward's got it.
CTA bus that's right here, and then the other bus that's over there with Theo Hardeman, they're taking people back to the south side of Chicago. So, Theo, so that bus is over there, the yellow bus that's going west down Addison, that's going west of Addison. The yellow bus is right there. Then we have another CTA bus that is right here, east on Addison, that is taking people to Belmont. So west on Addison is taking people back to the south side, east on Addison is taking people back to Belmont. So let's try to disperse this crowd. We got two CTA buses.
City organizers still here instructing people to make their way toward buses that they have waiting.
Allocated for us, and we have 3 yellow buses west on Addison that will take you back to Lakeshore Drive. These are big links to the south and west.
Again, if you're just joining us, we've been following this group of marchers who made their way from Lakeshore Drive, which they shut down for 35 minutes, onto Belmont Avenue, headed west toward Clark Street, and then made their way up Clark Street to this juncture. It's a very familiar scene. The marquee of Wrigley Field, Clark and Addison, has been the scene of many gatherings in recent years here in Chicago. And tonight, it is about an end of violence on the south and west sides of the city. Dozens, if not hundreds of people marched along this route. They shut down traffic along the way, wanted to disrupt this north side community and bring attention and bring that community into one voice with their own to bring an end to that violence. And Tio Hardiman, who organized this event, told me a short time ago that the next step is to sit down with the powers that be and have a discussion. So it's unclear what will come of this protest, of this march tonight. But this is a different kind of march than what we've seen in recent months. These people marched on the north side instead of in the communities that they talk about hurting so much. They came up here to Lakeview on a busy night where there's a Cubs game with the first pitch in less than an hour. Lollapalooza downtown in Grant Park. They did all this during the afternoon rush hour on a Thursday in the middle of August. And so that's where things stand now at Clark and Addison, where this group is thinning out, where people are going their separate ways, getting on buses, heading back home, and we will see what comes from this in the future days, weeks, and months ahead. Just keep an eye on abc7chicago.com because we have continuous coverage of this throughout the day and throughout the evening. So I'm going to sign off. I will leave you with this image. A group of protesters who did what they said they would, marched to Wrigley Field and shut down traffic along the way to bring attention to violence on the city's south and west sides, calling for Chicago to unite into one community. So I'm going to step aside now. Thank you for tuning in to this live digital special report with us this afternoon. Reporting from Wrigleyville, this is Jesse Kirsch for ABC7 Eyewitness News. Good day.